my father started having symptoms, I'd say in 2019, that were
Yep.
just very mild kind of things that our family would crack jokes about, like, gee, his dad is just not as sharp or something.
Yeah.
Um, and then in 2021, he just went drastically downhill within a few months. And it was pretty significant how much he declined within, I'd say, about 6 months. And he was diagnosed, I would say, very early 2021.
Hmm.
And I saw my parents for a couple weeks in May, and he he definitely, just wasn't himself, like his old sharp, fast self. And but it wasn't to the point where we were thinking we might need to hire someone to help us care for him. It wasn't to the point where we were thinking that that we might need to make arrangements to help my mom out. It wasn't to the point where we thought we couldn't leave him alone. And this is in May 2021.
Okay.
By by Ju- by July, my mom and my sister, who are, in North Carolina with him, were calling me once a week, or a couple times a week, both of them, saying, "Gosh, you really need to come see Dad. He's just gone downhill, and he's not able to." One of the things my mom said, he can't even check his email anymore. He can't figure out how to log into the computer and check his email. He can't figure out how to log into his bank account online. And he'd been doing that for 10 years.
Yeah.
Um, he had stopped making his own coffee in the morning. He always, I mean, for my whole life, first thing in the morning, gets up and makes a pot of coffee.
Wow.
So, simple, mundane things like that for most of us. But then, you got to realize, if he's not able to do those things,
Yeah.
then that's pretty serious. So that was in July. So by August 1st, I took a week off work. I went to visit them. And just because I needed to see for myself, how could he have gone downhill so fast within a few months? I just saw them in May.
Right.
And while I was there, a couple things happened. We left my father at home, and me and my mother were at my sister's house. My sister has two kids, I have three kids, and they drive my dad nuts. So we were all at my sister's house, just spending some time together. My dad was at home. And my mom called me the next morning to say that when she went home, my father he's wearing like those pleated khaki shorts, that you see old men
Yep.
wearing with their dock shoes and
Yeah.
stuff on
Yep.
the waterfront. So he could not figure out how to get his hand in his pocket to get his wallet, with the pleats in the pants and
Yep.
things. He
Yep.
couldn't figure out how to get his hand in the pocket to get his wallet out. So he put his hand up under his shorts and ripped his whole pocket out of the pants in order to get the wallet out.
Wow.
So that's one thing he did. And then another time while I was there, it was just me and my father sitting at the kitchen table.
Hmm.
And I just mentioned something. I said something about my mom in passing. I said, "Oh, mom said, we're going to go to the store later," or something like that, something very mundane. And he said to me, "Well, who's mom?" And I said, "My mom." And he said, "Well, but who do you mean when you say mom? Like, who are you talking about?" And I said, "My mother, my mother, not,
Yeah.
the person, mom." And then he said, "Well, but who is that? I know you're saying mom, but who is mom?"
Wow.
And and I said her full name. I said, "Mom," and I
Yeah.
said her full
Yeah.
name to
Yeah.
him. And he said, "Well, that's my wife." And I said, "Yes, she's your wife and my mom." And he said, "Oh, okay, okay. I
Oh my
see what you're
goodness.
saying."
Wow.
And I was like, "Yeah, Dad, that's who I'm talking about."
Wow.
And he tried to come up with some excuse, of course, for why he
Sure.
couldn't remember. He said to me, he said, "Well, it's just that you don't normally refer to her like that." And I said, Dad, I've been referring to her like that since I could talk, probably for about 40 years now, calling her mom." And he said, "Okay, okay. Okay, Hilary, fine, fine. You're right." Um, so, in the moment of that conversation,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I for a little while I thought he was kind of like joking with me, like,
Yeah. Putting you on.
and then when we were done with the conversation and he was like, it wasn't until he said, trying to make the excuse of, well, that's just not how you normally refer to her. It wasn't until then that it really hit me how serious it was,
Right.
that I was just like, wow,
Wow.
he doesn't, I felt like, tomorrow I could walk in the room and he not really remember who I am. And by the first, by the end of August into the 1st of September, I had my parents down here for visits and they approved him for the study. And September 1st, he started on the medication. It's hard to even quantify it, besides being able to just tell you a few of the things and major differences that are, when you look at it in the whole, it's life changing. I mean, he's back to doing his regular stuff, like checking his email. He's making his coffee again in the morning. He's doing yard work. He's cleaning the yard. He's mowing the lawn. He had
Wow.
stopped doing all that stuff. Um, they came down to Florida, I want to say in November. Yeah, because I was with them for Thanksgiving. They have a house on the west coast of Florida. Oh, and my dad drove down
You're
here
kidding
and he had
me.
stopped driving.
Wow.
Yeah,
Why?
he had stopped driving, and I thought my mom was driving them down. And
From
when
North
they got
Carolina,
here
you
and I
said,
met
right?
up with them,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
from North Carolina. Now they spend the night in a hotel in Georgia, so that it's not like they're driving the whole way
Sure.
through, but
Sure.
still.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But I thought my mom was driving them and my dad actually drove them the whole way. And I said, "Why
Kidding me.
is dad driving?" And my mom said, "Because he's fine and he wants to." And I was like, "Geez, okay." And before, he was acting nervous about driving and wanting my mother to drive him, even just around their little town where they've lived for 35 years.
Wow. Wow.
So he wasn't even driving the trash to the dump by himself anymore.
Goodness.
um and as I was telling you when we spoke briefly before, in August when I went to see them, I was already mentally like making plans on how I
Yep.
could move back to North Carolina, work remotely to be with my parents, to help my mom so she wouldn't feel so stressed out and so trapped by all of a sudden having someone that she can't leave alone. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Fast forward to now, I have no plans on moving back to North Carolina at all. Um, Unless something changes that I just want to. As of now, I'm actually just closing on a property here in Florida in the next couple weeks because I plan
Congratulations.
on thanks, because I plan on staying here. I don't, as of now, there's no reason for me to be thinking I need to go back to North Carolina to help be a caregiver, because they're they're doing great. I mean, it's not only amazing for my dad just because he got some of his independence back, and I'm not going to say he's 100%.
Uh,
He's not back to where he was, let's say, in 2019.
huh.
He still stutters a little bit.
Okay.
He still sometimes has trouble remembering the exact words that he wants to say.
I see.
The biggest difference with that, though, is now when I call and he answers,
Uh-huh.
he sounds like himself.
Uh-huh.
and I can have full conversations with him. I can talk to him on the phone for 20 or 30 minutes.
Wow.
And the only reason we get off the phone is because he's not a big phone
Right.
person. So after a while he's like, well, that's all I've got for you. That's all the updates here. But there were times before I went up in August, there was one time when I called him and he answered and I said, "Hey Dad, how are you?" And he said, "I'm good. I'm gonna get someone on the phone that can talk better than me," and just
Wow.
handed the phone to my mother
Gee.
and walked away. And I was
Oh
like,
my God.
okay, well, nice talking to you, you know?
So impersonal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, my mother goes out and does whatever activities and errands and goes to lunch with friends and leaves my dad alone now. I mean, he can stay there
That's
and
amazing.
do whatever he wants. He can get in the car and go to the dump or the store or whatever they want to do. And it's not an issue to leave him alone anymore. Um, you know, there's still once in a while where I'll ask him if he can do something. You know, we're working on all of their estate planning and just making sure all of that is in order,
Mm-hmm.
especially since he is, you know, able to understand everything.
Right.
And, you know, there's once in a while I'll ask him to do something and he'll act like it's much more difficult. And it's a task that in the past there would be no hesitation
Yeah.
or no questioning it or no like, oh, that sounds hard. It's just, oh, you need to make a phone call and confirm something. Once in a while he'll act like what I'm asking him to do sounds complicated,
Mm-hmm.
but if that's the worst
Yeah.
that's happening, then I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he started taking the medication September 1st. And the doctor running our study, I asked him how long it normally took for people to notice any differences.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in private. I didn't ask him in front of my parents. He told me that he has had reports from patients and loved ones as soon as 20 days
Wow.
that they've noticed a difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't tell my parents that.
Good.
I told my sister that just so she could keep an eye out for it, but we agreed don't tell my mom or dad that because we just want to see
Yeah.
what is going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, you know, after about 3 weeks, I asked my mom if she noticed anything different and my sister, and they couldn't really tell anything different. And I asked my dad and he said, "Well, I do feel like I have a little more pep in my step." Whatever that is supposed to mean.
Yeah.
Like, so something was happening. He could physically feel a difference. It's definitely a huge difference. I mean, even just he's just more back to being my normal dad. He's got his normal kind of confidence back.
Yeah.
Whereas before he was very concerned and second guessing himself about everything,
Yeah.
even if it was just like, are we packing stuff in the car and is it time to go? He leaned on my mother to basically make sure every step he was taking was okay.
Wow. And then have there been any adverse effects, any downsides you guys have noticed?
Nothing.
Nothing. Hey, that's
Literally nothing.
literally nothing. That's excellent. Excellent. And then I think you sort of have addressed this, but did he seem to level off, decline a little, to get better continually, or any notice there?
So the last in-person doctor visit he had was December 1st of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And that visit, I remember, went really well. And he had passed some memory tests that they were giving him.
Yeah.
And I think that his score was the highest he'd had since starting the study.
Great.
And he himself was excited about that. You know, he felt like he had
Good.
won the test or something, you know, like done good on the test. So I'm not sure about leveling off or if he still has room for improvement at this point. I mean, to be honest with you, if he never gets any better than he is right now, but he doesn't get any worse, it's a win all the way around.
Yeah.
me personally, I don't have expectations for him to be back to 100%. I'm just happy that he improved drastically from where he was.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, we could all definitely live the rest of our lives, however long that may be, with my dad at this state and be happy because we've got our dad and
Yeah.
he remembers everything
Yeah.
and knows how to do stuff and
Yeah.
still participates. And I mean, he's driving around and, doing well.
Driving from North Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily want him to keep doing
No.
that, but he feels up to it. So that's the important part. But if you can, you shouldn't hesitate to do it. Or you should just find out where the nearest study is. I mean, I would have flown to North Carolina every month if I had to and driven them 5 hours to appointments if I had to. I mean, it's worth it because after a month or so, you really start to see that that
Your
person
story,
is getting
my
their
goodness.
life back.
Yeah.
And that affects all of us, everyone around us.
Would it be possible in the name of your father to file a petition to FDA to expedite treatment? So many people in need of treatment. I think Anthony might be thinking here of the fact that you're an attorney as well. So there's and to add some color to this, there's a petition right now to stop these trials as if there was safety concerns.
Yeah.
And so Anthony is wondering, would it be possible in the name of your father to file a petition to expedite the treatment instead?
I have thought of it. I just haven't had a chance to look into it.
Yeah.
The petitions that I've looked at that are asking to stop the trials, I don't think they are going to hold any weight, or anyone with any real background in this is going to give it any significant treatment at all.
Yep.
But I have thought about it. I just haven't looked into how to do it and whatnot. So
Okay.
I have thought about doing it though, because mostly just because of all the people that are against it. I just feel like they're greedy and ignorant. There's no way they'd be signing their loved one up for the study faster than they could apologize to everyone.
Yes.
He had started on one medication. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I want to say I believe it's Aricept or something like that.
Yes. Aricept.
That's known. What I know about the drug is that it's known for not working after 6 months.
Yes.
And
a stimulant.
Yeah. And so my father had already been taking that for well over 6 months when he started the Cassava trial. And it was obviously not working because he went downhill pretty fast there towards July and August. So obviously it was not working. Well, obviously he wouldn't be telling me about specific patients and I wouldn't ask that, but he did comment to me. He did comment to me that he has never had a patient in the trial that didn't show at least some signs of improvement and some, improvement from taking the drug. He didn't go into detail as to at least how much at least some meant. So, and then I don't know if there's people that are accepted into the trial with more severe symptoms than my father that maybe then they don't improve as much. I really don't know.
Sure.
All I know is he did comment to me one time that he hasn't had a single person in a trial for this drug that didn't improve some. But I'm worried what could happen in that 6 month period if he's on a placebo. I really think that they should just do away with the placebo trials. The placebo part of it was how he acted before he got on the drug.
Yes, agreed.
And I think to put people through a placebo phase in something like this is just cruel. I mean, you've got you see their markers when they come in. Why make them go back to being on nothing? And I know it's not up to the company. This is what they have to do in order to get approval. So I'm not upset with it, but I think that something needs to be changed. I mean, I want to hope that my dad will be a lucky one to not be on the placebo, but that doesn't take away from the other people in the study that might get a placebo and not the real drug. And it's very scary to me. I just really hope that the FDA approves this drug before these trials are done so that the people that have already started on the medication continue to have it, and that, it opens it up for everyone to be able to go to their doctor and get a prescription for it. I never could have thought that the results would be this great, and how much it was affecting everyone when my father, before he started taking the medication or after.
Right.
It's really life changing to go from one set of thoughts of what you think you need to do to now. So I'm really happy for my dad, but also my mom, who feels like she can live her best retirement life now and not feel stuck at home being a caregiver. um I'm just happy for both of them. I was as worried about my mom as I was my dad,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now
Right.
I don't have to be.
Good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big deal, and I just hope that other people can get access to this as fast as possible, because I do know some people that have family members that have Alzheimer's that
Yeah.
are way, way farther down the road in the progression of
Yeah.
their disease when my father started this, and they either didn't feel like they could get help for their family anymore because it was too late.
Yep.
One person I spoke to, whose dad was much worse than my father at the point when he had started the study. I tried to convince him to at least go get his dad checked out, but there's just so much suspicion about drug trials in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
And I probably would have been someone suspicious of drug trials until I was in the position where I had no other options
Yeah.
and there was nothing out there that could help my father,
Yeah.
that I felt like there was no downside to trying it. I
Yep.
was desperate to not have him go down the road that his father went down. I was desperate to not have to be losing my dad, but living with him physically for the next 5,
Right.
10,
Right.
15
Right.
years.
Right. 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 Right.
So I mean, you make your decisions on things differently when it affects you personally and your family personally. And I think that if the people attacking Cassava Sciences, the individuals that are attacking it, I think that they just have probably a financial interest
Yes.
in stock going down, and they've probably never had anyone in their family going through this, because if they did, they would do whatever it took to try to find help and a solution for their family member.